Let's take a look at one more async await example, and then I will have you do an exercise. I'm going to take one of our promise examples and refactor it to use async await. Now, one thing we have not talked about is how we handle a rejected promise or an error with async await. And this example will allow us to do that. So let's look at what the previous example is first. Here we have it. We created a function of filter posts by users, and then we fetched all the posts. Once we got them and converted the response object, then we ran that data on filter posts by users and then logged it to the console. And notice we have a catch method here, .catch, so that we could handle any errors that occurred up here. So we need to replicate that. But the first step is we need to set this up in an async and await. And that's what I'm going to do. I'll start down here at line 15. So let's first just create a function. I'm going to call it retrieve user posts. And we want to put async in front of this because it's an async function. So there we have our basic structure, and here's where we can begin doing the refactoring. So we have a fetch statement here, and this is going to return a promise. And so whatever that returns, I'm going to assign it to RESP variable, and then we need to await this promise to return. All right. So nothing will happen on the next line because of await. Nothing will happen until that promise has returned. Well, what are we going to do on the next line? Well, we're going to convert that response object using the JSON method. And once again, we need to await, just like that. Once that is complete, we'll have the data, the post data, in this JSON variable. And then we can use that to go ahead and invoke this filter post by users and pass in that array. So let's just use the same variable that we used up above. The results of calling that function are going to be placed in user1 posts. So filter posts, there we go, post by user. And we're going to pass in the array that's in the JSON variable, and then a 1, because we want post for user number 1. That's what we were doing here, as we can see right there, post for user number 1. And then finally, we can log that to the console. User1 post. And there we go. We have the bulk of our function. We have this refactored into an async function. Let's just check that out really quick. So I'm going to save that. Let's take a look at what we're getting here. Getting array 10, length of 10. The user ID is all 1 for all of those. So we seem to be getting what we want. And we did it with an async function by refactoring what we had done with promise code. Now, the one thing we have not done is we haven't set up a way to deal with errors or a rejection from a promise. Now, when the async await keywords were set up, it was determined that in order to deal with problems, in order to deal with errors and whatnot, they would use the traditional try-catch block that was already a part of JavaScript. So they didn't add anything new to deal with that. Now, basically what a try-catch block is we have up above here the keyword try, and then we have a block of code. Now, that block of code will go ahead and run, and if anywhere in the block of code throws an exception, then it will jump to the catch block. Here's the catch block right here. And whatever code is inside that block will be executed. And so what we want to do is we want to take all of this here and we want to put it inside of our try block. Just indent that. So now if any problem occurs anywhere in here, it will jump down to this block. And not only will it do that, it will place the error or the problem, the exception, in the MSG variable right here. All right, so we could just take and copy this console log statement and put it inside of this catch block, so that that is the part that would be invoked if a problem occurs. So let's go ahead and run this again, save it, and we're getting the same array. Nothing has changed there. But what happens if, for example, let's say right here, I'll just throw an error problem. All right, so we'll just put that in there, and let me comment out this. I forgot to do that before. Let's get that commented out. And I just realized this whole time we have been looking at the old, because we did not invoke this at all. All right, so let's take a look at it again, make sure it's working for us. All right, we're getting our 10 posts there, and they're all from user ID 1. All right, and now add an error in there, and we see that that's showing up, okay? Because basically any error that occurs in anything inside the try block between those two curly braces, it's going to stop execution at that point and jump down to the catch block. And the message, in this case problem, was assigned to the MSG variable. We see that here, error problem. We're seeing that showing up right there. And so that's how you go about catching errors or catching rejections of promises when using an async await pattern. All right, let's go ahead and move on.